So out of all the questions raised by Jurassic World, the one we all want answered, I'm sure, is that yes, Bryce Dallas Howard does run around in sensible footwear for the majority of the movie. Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and welcome to another episode of First Impressions. On today's episode, Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard return to Jurassic World to save the dinosaurs from extinction in Fallen Kingdom. The movie is set a couple of years after the events of Jurassic World. Isla Nublar, the home of the titular theme park, is now under threat from a volcanic eruption, and the world is divided over whether or not to help the genetically created dinosaurs. Now it's up to Claire Dearing, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, and Owen Grady, played by Chris Pratt, to carry out an ambitious plan to move the dinosaurs from Isla Nublar to a safe haven. As spearheaded by John Hammond's former partner, Benjamin Lockwood, played by James Cromwell, and his aide, Eli Mills, played by Rafe Spall. But things are not what they appear to be. It's been 25 years since Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park first roared its way onto cinema screens and revolutionised blockbuster filmmaking with its very innovative use of visual effects. It really changed cinema and the way movies are made forever, and I definitely consider it an important part of filmmaking history. It's not personally one of my favourite Spielberg films, but I still find it a very enjoyable movie. It has great characters, a great theme and message about not messing with nature, and of course some very intense and thrilling set pieces. And because Jurassic Park was such a big hit, it's probably not all that surprising that many movies since then have tried to emulate its success. Some good, some bad, but none of them have matched the first Jurassic Park, even its sequels, which weren't terrible by any means, and they did have some entertainment value, but they just didn't have the same spark as the original. I think after the third movie, people just sort of stopped caring about the franchise until 2015 when Colin Trevorrow's Jurassic World hit cinemas. It served as sort of a semi-reboot of the series and was enormously successful. I don't think anybody was expecting it to be as big of a hit as it was, myself included. I do remember seeing Jurassic World back when it first came out. It was around about the same time I decided that I would try to see as many new films as possible in the cinema. I remember liking it quite a bit at the time, but it didn't really stick in my mind that much, outside of the controversy about Bryce Dallas Howard running around in high heels, and a surprisingly cruel death for a supporting character that wasn't really all that nasty. So I rewatched it just before seeing this new film, and in my opinion, it's still decent. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, and it's arguably the best of the Jurassic Park sequels. The dinosaur action, the production design are all excellent, the characters are fine, but whenever I watched the film again I did kind of notice this semi-meta narrative about the film that sort of tried to pass commentary on the state of modern blockbusters and spectacle and how audiences are kind of jaded and cynical towards it. It really felt undecided over whether or not it was going to be a J.J. Abrams style reboot or a Zack Snyder style deconstruction of the franchise, so it tried to do both and only ends up being more successful at the former than the latter. It just kind of came across as needlessly smarmy, and I was kind of thankful whenever the movie dropped that approach in favour of just giving us dinosaur action and lots of fun and spectacle and some occasionally thrilling suspenseful set pieces. It actually does kind of work fairly well to a certain extent on that front. But even despite my mixed feelings on Jurassic World, I'm still really looking forward to Fallen Kingdom, especially with the change in directors. Colin Trevorrow's no longer directing, as he was initially supposed to be helming episode 9 at the time in Star Wars, but he still remains as an executive producer and he's credited as one of the writers. This time we have J.A. Viona in the director's chair, who also made The Orphanage, The Impossible and A Monster Calls, the latter of which I saw back when it first came out and I thoroughly loved. So I think he's a very capable filmmaker, and I was looking forward to seeing what kind of direction Viona would take the franchise in. Unfortunately, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is a very mixed bag of a film, and I get the feeling it's going to be very polarising among fans of the franchise. I think easily the film's biggest strength is Viona's direction. It aims for more of a horror movie vibe, and it's something that I think he manages to pull off for the most part. There's some very well staged set pieces. In fact, the film starts out swinging with this very intense pre-title sequence. It's quintessential Jurassic Park. It's tense, it's suspenseful, it's exciting. Viona really has a great knack for building tension, and that's on full display all throughout the film. It's just kind of a shame that the rest of the film is all over the place. I know there's a lot of people that have been pointing out that this movie is kind of a remake of The Lost World, and that is kind of true to a certain extent. On the one hand, you got one group out trying to save the dinosaurs, and then on the other hand, you have another group that's trying to exploit them, but they all kind of have to work together at one point. And both movies also try to make you feel sympathy for the dinosaurs, even though they're, you know, killing machines. That being said, the film does have an interesting moral question, particularly about whether or not the dinosaurs should be saved, especially since they're the result of man messing with nature, and they're technically property since they were genetically created. They're not natural beings. But the movie's always trying to push you to sympathise with the dinosaurs, and it never really interacts with the ethical questions raised by the movie's story. Aside from a few bookend scenes with Jeff Goldblum reprising his role as Ian Malcolm from the first two Jurassic Park movies, and I find it quite hilarious that he's been really heavily promoting the movie because he's barely even in the movie. He's only in the movie for about 2 minutes tops. He just shows up and says, hey, the dinosaurs should be allowed to die because it's the nature, it's the order of life, you know? They came before us, they shouldn't be allowed to live, they should be allowed to go extinct. Poor Jeff Goldblum, I'm sorry, man. Why bring Jeff Goldblum onto your movie and not do anything with him? I'm sorry, I knew he was gonna be in a very small role from the minute I saw the trailers, but come on, you can do better than that. And what's worse is that the script is just really inconsistent. There's just so many moments where I was just really questioning the logic of whatever situations the characters were in. Like how everybody's upset about the possibility of the dinosaurs dying even though they could probably just clone them again. Or how Claire's somehow unable to access the computer technology of Jurassic World even though she used to run the place. Or at the very least they could probably move them to somewhere like Site B, Isla Sorna from the sequels. Why don't they just move the dinosaurs there? Or how part of the plot stems from the fact that some trigger-happy dumbass just couldn't resist the temptation to shoot stuff. In fact, once we get to Isla Nublar, things just get downright dumb fast. There's a few tense moments here and there, like when Grady tries to save Claire from the gyrosphere that's underwater. That's a pretty tense moment. But there's also a lot of really silly shit too. Like when Grady's rolling around semi-paralysed as lava's forming around him, or how he's somehow able to survive getting caught up in an ash cloud. It's like something out of a Roland Emmerich movie. It feels like it would be more suited to something like Volcano or Dante's Peak or any other 90s disaster movie. And as for the characters, they're largely just there. You know, they're not particularly memorable or interesting, or they're memorable for all the wrong reasons. You have Claire's two assistants, Zia, played by Danielle Pinata, and Franklin, played by Justice Smith. Zia's okay, she's likeable and she's snarky, but she's just sort of there and she often disappears for long stretches until the script requires her to do something. And then Franklin's basically like the cowardly comic relief character. He's always scared of everything, he's always going around screaming, I'm gonna die, oh my god, we're gonna die, oh my god, we're gonna die, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. If that annoyed the fuck out of you, it is 10 times more annoying in the film. And I kinda get it, he's a kid, he's not really prepared for this sort of thing, he's geeky, he's awkward, but Smith just overacts the part way too much, I feel. The villains as well are pretty they're quite cartoonish. Rafe Spall is pretty solid, there's a few moments where he is quite creepy, but aside from that, he's really not much of a threat. He's not a particularly interesting human villain. And then you also have Ted Levine as the leader of a pack of mercenaries, and you think there's going to be some kind of conflict between him and Owen. There's a few scenes early on where they butt heads and sort of snark around at each other, and then that just goes absolutely nowhere. He's just basically recycling Vincent D'Onofrio's character from Jurassic World, just with the voice of Buffalo Bill. And yeah, they even bring back that whole subplot about the raptors and dinosaurs being used as soldiers and weapons. Why? I don't know why anybody thinks they can control dinosaurs and use them as soldiers. It's like trying to train a xenomorph to be a soldier, for fuck's sake. It just isn't going to work. Now, I know I sound like I really don't like the movie, and I do agree, it's very flawed, but it does have some redeeming merits that make it at the very least watchable and semi-enjoyable. Chris Pratt is as reliably charismatic as ever, even if he doesn't really get much to do in this film. Bryce Dallas Howard is also really good too. I think she's way better in this film than she was in Jurassic World. And I think it helps that the character of Claire actually gets something meatier to do than just running around in high heels all the time. She's become a dinosaur rights activist, which really contrasts with how she was portrayed in Jurassic World, but I like how she has developed over the course of these two films. And once we get past the whole Isla Nublar part of the film, I think the film does begin to pick up a little bit. There's a few new ideas introduced that I think are genuinely quite intriguing, especially regarding this new character, Maisie, played by Isabella Sermon, who's basically the token child character of this movie in the same vein as Tim and Lex from the first movie. She spends much of the movie running around the Lockwood mansion, she's solving these mysteries, and she does have this bit of intuition and ingenuity to her, which I did kind of like. And there's a pretty big reveal that does occur about 2/3 of the way through the film that is quite interesting and does offer a lot of intriguing possibilities as to where they could take the series in subsequent installments. And the film's last third is easily where I think the film is at its best. It's still quite flawed, especially with this idea about a dinosaur auction, which is just kinda daft even by this series' standards. But once we get past that, it becomes this weird haunted house movie with dinosaurs, which I admittedly did find pretty cool. It's where Bayona's influence really begins to shine through the most, and I really wish the movie was a little bit more like that. And the movie does work well in places, it just doesn't really work as a whole. Overall, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is a very inconsistent film. It's easily at its worst in its first half, where it feels more like a 90s disaster movie, but once we get past that, the film does begin to pick up a good bit. And its ending really offers a lot of scary possibilities on what could happen next. The acting is solid, the visuals are incredible, the production design is great, the cinematography is gorgeous, it's very well directed. Most aspects of the film are of a high standard, except the script. The script just leaves a lot to be desired. It's very unfocused, half-baked, and it's really a shame too, because I think if they had polished the script up a wee bit, there could have been something here. With that being said, I'm gonna give Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom a very light 6 out of 10. I don't hate this movie, I do think it has some enjoyable aspects to it. Would I recommend seeing it? That depends. If you're a Jurassic Park fan, you might get a kick out of it. It just depends on whether or not you have a tolerance for the script and some of the weird story inconsistencies and bizarrely dumb moments. If you can look past that, you will get some enjoyment out of it. But considering the talent at the helm, I can't say I'm not disappointed. It's not one big pile of shit, but it's not really worth holding on to your butts for either. So Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, have you seen it yet? If so, what did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Let me know down in the comments below. I'll certainly be interested in hearing your feedback on this film because it is proving pretty polarising. I know a lot of people like it, a lot of people really hate it. I definitely would be interested to hear your thoughts on it, okay? Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon with more reviews and upcoming videos in the future. But in the meantime, feel free to like the video, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe to my channel while you're at it. I'd really appreciate that. If there's anything I can do to improve my presentation, do let me know. I'm always happy to hear feedback as long as it's somewhat constructive. If you want to find me on social media or contact me via email, links below down in the description. And if you want to support me on Patreon, by all means, I'd really appreciate that too. And until next time, I'm Danny Quinn, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.